Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video will be my first tier list for 11.1 of The War Within. We are doing this video before 11.1 coming out. I'm playing on EU, so I haven't tested anything except the PTR stuff. But it is kind of a prediction based on what we know from the previous patch, but also from the patch notes. I wanted to read the whole patch notes for you guys, but then it became a very long video. I decided to backpedal on it. So I'm going to take the only information I have read on the patch notes and bake it into a prediction on the best classes you could main in 11.1. I'm going to talk about mostly PvP, but I'll be trying to take PvE into account, as I am also going to try to Mythic Plus or Raid with these classes. So we'll have to see. Now, big disclaimer, it is my opinion, it is not baked into Marmor, it is literally a prediction, and I don't know what the meta will be. No one actually knows, everyone is like hearsaying or purely based on the PTR stuff, which can still change coming next week. So that is a bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. Let's talk first and foremost about tanks. So I have found a great website, which is tiercraft.gg. So if you really want to create your own tier list, you could do all that as well. It's literally one of the first websites you could make, first links you get. So if you do tiercraft.gg, boom, you're on it, and it's quite simple. You can do whatever you want from it. You can just not change the colors, unfortunately. So it's still like something very new. So let's start right away with tanks. I'm going to try to talk tanks PvP, PvE as well, but mostly PvP. It's very taboo, but it is what it is. Blood DK. I think Blood DK is still going to be very strong in RBGs. In 2v2, I don't think it's like viable. In 3v3, you have comps that are working with Blood DK. They got a 20% buff damage-wise, but people are panicking on it, but they don't remember the nerfs that they got from previous patch, which really destroyed damage of Death Strike. What is really strong about Blood DK is the ability to literally hostage a healer, which is now also nerfed because they removed the PvP talent that made you not walk faster than 100% whenever you get gripped. So now that is gone. So I'm going to say for a PvP tank, so judging as a tank, I would say that it is still A tier in RBGs because it is very good at what it actually does, which is hostaging, until they nerf or they put a, I would say, CD on getting gripped, pretty much, like a CC, like a DR on grips. It still is going to be relevant. Until they do that, I still think it's A tier. We have Vengeance Demon Hunter, which had a few changes. Illidan's Grasp has been nerfed for Vengeance Demon Hunter, but got added for Havoc Demon Hunter. Overall, the damage is increased, but decreased on Demon Surge. So Demon Surge got a huge buff. So I think in total it's a 100% buff towards the damage done. No, it's 60%. Excuse me, 60% for Havoc Demon Hunter, and for Vengeance Demon Hunter, it's literally a nerf. So I am from the opinion that it is not that great right now, especially since the nerfs towards Illidan's Grasp, which was one of the things that were making Vengeance Demon Hunter quite interesting. It still has a lot of CC, so I'm going to put it in B tier for now. I have no real opinion about it, no real strong opinion about it, because I didn't see too many of them, and the patch is not going to change anything towards that. PvE wise, I'm going to say that I don't know too much about tanks or tank meta, so I'm not going to pronounce too much. But if you want to watch like a tier list based on people talking about that, you could always watch Maximum, for example, where he made a tier list like 2 hour long, I don't know, about PvE, so you can also check that out. Guardian Druid overall got like a lot of damage buffs. I think the issue is you have Cyclone nerfed to 5 seconds, so it's not like you're going to spam Cyclone, but it's like one of the things that are going to make a druid quite interesting. I don't think you're taking Guardian Druid because of the damage. It's mostly because of survivability. And I think it does its job pretty well. If you're thinking about RBGs, it can actually carry the flag very well. And it also is a stealth class, so you get across way easier than, let's say, a protection warrior, where you see him humbling down the street and you can literally gank him. Now, protection warrior doesn't really have like the flag carrier, I would say, role, even though people do think it is. But it's not the case. Like, protection warrior is better at peeling off, at really stopping the enemy, but like itself, it doesn't really travel well. So for Guardian Druid, I think just because it actually travels well, I'm going to put it in A tier, on par with Blood DK for different reasons. Brewmaster, I don't really have an opinion about it. I might make a tier which is, I don't, no opinions about it. And that is pretty like honest from me. I could like just lie about it, but I don't really have a strong opinion about Brewmaster. Protection Paladin, I can talk about arenas now, because I do feel like RBGs is not their forte. In arenas, there could be a world where you see in 3v3, not in Soul Shuffle, a comp that could make Protection Paladin work. The issue is that they nerfed a lot of the stuff that was like very viable in Shadowlands. They nerfed it in Dragonflight, and they even nerfed it again in the War Within. I think it just has like a cheese thing going on where you can really one-shot someone, but that also got nerfed. So my opinion is that it is really just not a good tank. In Soul Shuffle, it is not even seen as a tank. It is, you queue as a tank and you are a healer basically, and you only face another protection paladin. So it is a status quo where it's like same spec versus same spec. So it depends on a lot of factors where you actually are going to win. Equally skilled, it could do like not 3-3, but like it's on a lucky fight where you are going to win, for example, 4-2. I don't really like the fact that Protection Paladin is still seen as a tank. And if you want it to count as a healer, give them the possibility to actually heal very well. So you could end up versus like a healer lobby, why not? So for example, Protection Paladin could face a Disc Priest, but you need to give it a bit more so they can protect themselves from it. But if you do give it too much, then I think for PvE it is going to be messed up. So I'm going to put it in C tier for now. Protection Warrior, from all my testings on PTR, I do strongly believe it is the best arena spec for tanks. I'm going to put it in S tier. Please don't think it is S tier compared to the other specs, because it is really just S tier in their own category. Protection Warrior versus like other S tiers like DPS, it is literally like not a factor. But for a warrior, Protection Warrior, if you're thinking about like doing heavy damage with executes, for example, heavy damage with your demolish if you're playing like Colossus, but mostly you're going to play Mountain Thane. But if you're playing Colossus, you could actually deal insane amount of damage, which is like really a one-shot worthy. You could literally make a one-shot clip out of that. I'm going to put it in S tier because I do believe that the damage that they got extra is really making it strong. I don't think it's OP. So this is like really just the tanks, right? So I'm going to do tanks here. This is like the tanks. I'm going to remove all of them. Take a snapshot if you want to. So Protection Warrior S tier, Guardian Druid and Blood DK A tier, Vengeance Demon Hunter B tier, Protection Paladin, I would say even PvP to be fair, Protection Paladin C tier, and then no opinions about Brewmaster. I'm going to delete them and go back to the DPS, to the healers. I'm going to start with the healers. So I'm going to do that. Obviously, I will do that because then people are not going to speak too much about those specs and like skip the videos, because then it wouldn't be misunderstood. I don't want to fight people in comment section to let them know that it is about tanks, not like the overall like spec, like I would say mains that you could do. So now I'm going to talk about healers, and I could talk about PvP and PvE as well, because I do have my informations there. So first and foremost, let's talk about PvP, then I'm going to change the placements based on PvE. So in my opinion, right now, Disc Priest is in a very, very interesting place. I think they are on the cusp of being still very, very meta. It's not going to go down. I do believe like they have still insane amount of damage. Oracle is still very meta. They get only better as well. Like the penance machine that you're going to be is insane. You can literally offensively penance and it will also defensively penance for you, which is crazy. I think it's too overloaded. It should be nerfed. They changed a lot of stuff about Disc Priest. Now you have Shadowward Pain that is completely going to be used instead of like the Purge the Wicked, which is now gone. And I think that it is still very strong. From the testings I did, it is still meta, so I'm going to put it in S tier. I think in PvE is also S tier, so I'm going to like let it like this. Disc Priest is like still like a very bursty healer. In PvE, you are one of the healers that have also great damage throughput and heals through your damage, which is also quite insane. And they have a lot of like preventing of the damage, like you have pain suppression, which is still one of the best spells in the game. If you're a healer, any other healer specs would sell another spell pretty much, like another BIS spell, they would sell it for pain suppression because that's a very, very good spell. And what you can prevent is like damage that you would not have to heal in a match or in a dungeon or raid. So it's a very, very good thing. I want to talk about Restoration Shaman because I made a video today about like Resto Shaman, and I do believe like about shamans in general. I do believe like I'm very, very excited about Restoration Shaman. Now I'm not sure if I'm talking very factual whenever I'm talking about Restoration Shaman, because I do believe it's a very fun spec and it is worthy to main even when it's not optimal to play. It is definitely viable though. They baked Healing Tide with multiple totems where you don't need to have multiple keybinds. It does take away from the bloat. You still have a lot of stuff that are making Shaman a Shaman. And I'm actually excited about Resto Shaman. So I'm going to give it a B tier because I do believe they need more throughput. But it is very worthy to main because it will get a buff regardless. I think it's one of the specs where you are sure to get buffed and not nerfed for PvE, but also for PvP, which is crazy. In PvE, the performance is not very good actually. So the chances are you're going to get PvE buffs that are going to go through in PvP. So you're going to end up into A tier or S tier maybe after this week. So it's going to be quite good. Preservation Evoker, Flame Shaper looks interesting, but they nerfed how Echo behaves, which is kind of weird. Like you cannot echo a dragon breath, like the breath anymore, dream breath. You cannot echo the Spirit Bloom as well. So I don't know what's expected in PvP and how it should be and how it will be done. Where your rescue is now usable also whenever you're getting roots, so it's more safe, I guess. So if you're rooted, you can rescue into Verdant Embrace instead of like having to wait out the root or like dispel yourself or whatever. You have ways to get out of roots, so it's interesting. It still has a lot of damage. I still think like it is a high. Is it a high skill cap class? I do believe like it's very overplayed on how difficult it is. I don't think it's that difficult, but you have to have like some sort of feeling with the class. If you don't have a feeling or like being aggressive or like the movement and how the AoE is and how the range is, then you're going to fail. But that is like a situation where you just need to learn to play the class spec and in general be like having it as a routine, like trying to be optimal with your spec. So for now, I do believe like it is a B tier spec based on that information. I think in PvE it does a bit better uh, because they got a few quality of life changes, but I think they still lack a few things. Now the good thing is Flameshaper got a buff for preservation, not for devastation. I think devastation PvP you're not going to Flameshaper at all, but in PvE. I mean, excuse me, but as a healer, so preservation evoker PvP, Flameshaper could be a thing. I do believe like the scale commander for devastation evoker and the other one, I don't know the name anymore, for a preservation evoker, they have a lot of quality of life. Like for example, you get a blink, which is huge for preservation evoker instead of like the dash. So that's like quality of life changes that you would actually add onto the class if the hero talents were not there. Same for devastation, like the deep breath that you can actually maneuver and like move. That's the quality of life that if the hero talent for some reason doesn't exist anymore, you would add it in the class tree or in the spec tree. That's how good it is. A lot of people are like not playing for the damage itself, but like also the mass disintegrate. Like a lot of stuff is really like quality of life, very good at like by themselves. And Preservation Evoker has the same. So that's why Flame Shaper is like, it can be very good, but it depends on the numbers. If the numbers are not good, they're never going to be taken. While if the numbers are too good, they're always going to be auto locked. So for me, Preservation Evoker right now, it's an interesting space. I cannot really judge them on the meta or not because it depends on the numbers again. But like, is it worth to main? For me, it's going to be a B tier, which is good. Like B tier is not bad. B tier is like good. It's a good grade. Like if you get a B at school, it's not necessarily bad, right? Mistweaver. So I will talk about the hybrid build. So with the rising, like not it's a rising sun kick, but the rushing wind kick, where you're healing everyone whenever you're going to kick. It's interesting. I think it opens up a lot. They changed Crackling Jade as well, like the heal from it, damage from it. I think there is also a world where you're playing that as well, but it depends on your placement and how you have to place yourself and whatnot. I do believe it's still very strong. They changed it into the positives. They didn't really nerf too much. I do believe that they came out victorious from Season 1 to Season 2, so I'm going to put them at A tier because it is a worthy spec to main. It is also one of the best, if not the best, RBG spec to heal with. Same for Preservation Evoker. I didn't talk too much about that, but Preservation Evoker and Mistweaver, they have the same like I would say positives, where they have like very high mobility, they have great healing, great throughput, great survivability as well, and that's enough to be a poison in RBGs in general. And it's the same for like BGB Battleground Blitz. Mistweaver is the best healer, so if you're just doing BGBs, you're going to most likely have to main it because it's one of the best. Personally, it is my alt, so it's going to be my fourth alt, like not fourth alt, but my second alt. So I have two mains normally and two alts. That's my plan, and that is my fourth one. It could drop out, but the idea is to actually play as Mistweaver. So I have fast queues, and also just in general, I'll be able to enjoy the gameplay as well because I do like the gameplay of Mistweaver. So A tier. Resto Druid. Now, very biased as well. I think it's very worthy to main Resto Druid in PvP. Even if they nerfed Cyclone, it's like even if they actually nerfed it, so it is not even an if. It's nerfed to 5 seconds. I do believe the whole class tree changes that they got is a huge buff. Like being able to skull bash with fluid form. So if you're healing, bam bam bam, you see someone casting skull bash. You don't even need to think about class forming into skull bash. No, you can directly skull bash. Stay like 1 second into cast form because that's around what you have the time for it. You get then out of the form, you get like, because of the Lycara's mastery, or don't know how it's called, harmony, you get the crit buff for a few, like 5 seconds I think, and you will get then a huge amount of heals from that crit. Crit is not something you're going to build regardless, but it's always going to be nice to have if you have it. And you have also the possibility to have the same, but was like Moonkin. You get into Moonkin, you get the mastery buff, you get out 5 seconds, and you will get the amount of heal that is maybe incredible, which 6% is big, right? If you get 6% mastery, I think it's around 2 or 3 big mastery pieces, right? That is insane. So if you can actually just go to Moonkin, get the 6%, get out, you get like an insane amount of boost towards your healing, which is always going to be good. You have also 2 new PvP talents. One is going to boost your healing with like a Star Surge or your combo points spenders, and also whenever you're going to use your builders or your your Wrath and your Starfire, you will get like a second extra on your HOTS, which is big as well. So every GCD you're going to spend is going to be a good thing towards your HOTS. So I think it's a great class to main, like spec to main in PvP. In PvE, I think it's like the same. I think they did change for the beta. You do lose bubble, excuse me. You do also lose bubble in PvP. So they removed the PvP talent and they didn't add it in the spec tree for some reason. They should have done it. But it's now Tranquility is a 5-second CD. Heals for more, for less time, but it is not a bubble anymore. So it is like Divine Hymn from Holy Priest, where you will have to stand behind the pillar to have full value because people are going to stop you. But you're also highly trainable now. Good thing is they did buff a few things on the resto druid, like the class tree, where you're going to be a bit more survivable as well. And you have the ancient lore PvP talent, where you will get a 20% damage reduction whenever you're going to cast the Incarnation Tree of Life, which is a cast time now, but it's a 1.5 minute CD. So I think in general they come out better, but they do lose bubble, which is, yeah, it's annoying. I don't know why they did that. A lot of classes have like some sort of immunity or some sort of hard stop. Resto Druid doesn't have that anymore. Holy Paladin, they did like huge buffs towards Holy Light, buffs towards Flash of Light. They did remove a lot of the reduction or like mana reduction from like efflorescence and like those infusions of light. Now it's like pure a healing boost. You have also more damage on your how it's called. I don't remember the name anymore. The instant, anyways. You have more damage on that. They also boosted the heal from that as well. I don't know how it's called. But in general, I do believe like Holy Paladin, they come out better because they have the possibility to have like Blessing of Spell Warding. So it means that you can actually use Bop, but now it's Boss, obviously, versus casters. So if you're facing a full caster team, you don't need to have a Bop. You can just play with Blessing of Spell Warding. You only have 1 stack, so they removed the ability to have 2 Bops. Now it's only 1. But the same for Blessing of Spell Warding. You will, like, regardless, only have 1 Blessing of Spell Warding. So you will have to use it carefully. But it is a huge buff, a huge win versus those comps. Like if you're facing even a DK, like Blessing of Spell Warding is going to have a lot of impact. If you're facing like any warlocks, any like evokers, any, I don't know, mages, any casters, you're going to have a huge win out of that. So I think it's positive. Now, I'm going to put it in A tier. Can't really say if it's like really meta because they did nerf the mana. And I wonder how it will be in arenas. You will have some issues with mana regen. They didn't buff the mana regen compared to the nerfs that they did. So I don't think it's like going to be offsetted. You will heal more on Holy Light though. Holy Light is going to be a big heal. They did nerf the mana cost on the few spells, but they didn't buff, like there is no mana refunds anymore. So I don't know how good that is going to be. But I wonder. I'm like open to it. Holy Priest, I don't have strong opinions, so I'm going to put it on no opinions about it. I've seen like loads of buffs, like for example, Prayer of Meaning 66%. They changed a lot of like talent placements. They made a lot of the 2-point noders into 1-point noders, but I haven't really seen any Holy Priest yet. From my understanding, most holy priests are happy about those changes, but they are like wait and see compared to the other specs. Um, like holy priest is a pure throughput spec. If the throughput is not good, it's never going to be taken instead of like those other classes, because it doesn't really have a pain suppression. It actually doesn't have a pain suppression. They don't have like shields. They don't have totems that are able to heal whenever you are like AFK pretty much or doing offensive stuff. Obviously, you have your Prayer of Mending and your renew, but that's not enough in my opinion. They don't have like bobs. They don't have like huge stops. They have good PvP talents, but that's maybe not enough. They have some good damage, but they have to sacrifice their always be casting kind of thing where you really want to keep people alive. You still have the mentality where you want to have people being low so you are not over healing. But in PvP, if someone is low and you're getting CC'd, it is over, right? So it's not very intuitive. Well, I can give an opinion because of that. Like, I give a lot of stuff for Holy Priest, so I could put it somewhere. But I think I'm like in a wait and see mood where I can put it in B tier, maybe ahead of them. Maybe not. I don't know. I feel like it's tough. Do I want to put a holy priest at that position? Hmm. For now, I'm going to put it in like B tier as well. I think there is like no true C tier healer or D tier healer. I think it really depends on like activities. If you're doing RBGs, 2v2, 3v3, soul shuffles, if you're doing Mythic Plus or raiding, I think healers are like just a needed like class. Good. I'm also going to say Holy Paladin. A lot of the people are watching it for PvE. They're going to say, but how can Holy Paladin be A tier? That's correct. I think in PvE they are very low, from my understanding, at least in raiding. But they are going to inevitably again get buffed if it's the case. If really they're D tier, they're going to get buffed into the moon because they want it to be good. Because again, Paladin is one of the classes that you really want to be like it at the top because it's very popular. And that is going to be also a win for PvP. Often, whenever they're like buffing PvE, they don't really care too much about PvP whenever they're doing that. So PvP, they shoot up very high and often just get S tiers once they get the buff. So for me, A tier because of the utility, because of the potential, because of the class and how it plays. It's actually a very easy class as well, like very easy spec. So for me, it's going to be an A tier spec. Now, onto the DPS. I know people are going to say, well, where are the heals? Where are the tanks? Well, you should just not skip the video so you could actually see what is happening. So now, let's talk about the DPS. I'm going to start right away with like the few classes where I don't have an opinion because I don't really care about them. And about them, I'm talking mostly about the one class where I really have nothing to say, which is Augmentation Evoker. I think it's a class where in PvE and PvP they don't really have a identity. They don't know what they want to do with that class, with that spec. It's ever since they added it in Dragonflight, they are like in a limbo. Like, what are they supposed to do with Augmentation Evoker? Is it a full support spec? Should it do damage? Should it like be tanky? Should it be healing? Should it be buffing? Should it be debuffing? Like, what are they supposed to be? I think like normally the War Within should have fixed that, but they didn't fix it. It's still the same problem. Still, the spec is not really working in a lot of situations if they're not like OP. I'm talking about PvP right here, right? If it's not OP, they're not going to be taken seriously because you have the Devastation Evoker. If you really want to have like a dragon, you can fix a dragon in your team. If they're OP, you're going to take the biggest DPS, put it with the Augmentation Evoker, and voila, you'll have like one of the best DPS comps in the game with like obviously a good healer, for example, mistweaver, and yeah, that's your job. But in PvP, it feels like out of place. In PvE, it feels like they change every single patch their vision for Augmentation Evoker. They sometimes say, okay, it doesn't need to do a lot of damage, we're going to nerf it and then buff the buffing capacities. Then the next patch, they're literally nerfing it by making it not possible to buff healers and tanks, for example, like this patch. They nerf like a few things that makes Evoker very bursty. They also nerf that as well. So it's very weird. I don't really know if it's meta currently. It might be meta. But in PvP, it's like never going to be meta until they fix that. So for now, I would say if I really have to give an opinion in PvP, this D tier, there are occasions where you're going to do a huge burst and it's going to jump in S tier for 5 seconds and go back to D tier. I don't think it's a good spec if it's really like this. It reminds me like a Pyro mage from Classic, where they have like a few semblance of like good and then go back to like being a subpar mage. The same for Preservation Evoker. You have like for Augmentation Evoker, you have like moments where it feels wow, it bursts you down in a second and then goes back to anonymity where they are like literally not doing well. So I'm going to give you no opinions about it, but you already know my opinion. It's D tier in PvP, at least for now. Except if someone proves me wrong, prove me wrong, please. I don't think it's that good. I'm going to talk about warriors first. A lot of people are panicking about warrior, which I understand. They got buffed in PvE and they didn't like add the little like phrase where they say not applicable to PvP. That's for Fury Warrior. I do believe Fury Warrior comes very strong on top. I'm going to put it in S tier. Every single change, from my understanding, is a buff. I don't know what they're doing. I'm going to change this title now. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if like it's the purpose to make it very strong until they nerf it next week. It could be nerfed. It could be they have like 1 week to fix it. They could say, look, bloodbath, bloodthirst, whatever, we're going to like keep it in line. The issue with warrior is they don't scale well. Like every single patch, whenever there is a new patch, they don't scale well because the scaling is not good. And they have to compensate it with like giga buffs. The issue with that is that it goes through every single activity in the game. It could go very well, it could go very bad. And for now, it is going too well for Fury Warrior, which is not a concern for Arms Warrior in my opinion. In Arms Warrior, I understand the more strike buff, although I don't understand the timing of it. Now, right now, it does a lot of damage. I do believe like if I have to judge between them, Fury Warrior is above Arms Warrior, but it's still very meta. Like A tier is meta, guys. S tier means that like it is a god tier spec. Fury Warrior is going to be dominating this season, at least if it stays like this. I don't think it's going to stay like this, but it is going to dominate it. And also, in general, Warrior is a very good class to main. I would say here specs. I'm very, very sorry I say class, but like specs, you're playing specs, not classes in retail. Although it should be classes, but Fury Warrior is going to dominate like PvP by a large margin. I think overall the few changes that they got are like all buffs, and you already have like a buffed version this patch. So the next patch, which is the 11.1, is going to be even worse. So for me, it's going to be a Fury Warrior S tier. Arms Warrior, the same. Like I said, they buffed every single portion of the kit, and they also buffed the survivability on the class tree. So I'm from the understanding where if your more strike hurts all the time, because that's what they want. They want it like if MS is up, it should be doing good damage, regardless of overpower stacks, regardless of like preparation. It's just going to be hurting. Closest smash, Avatar, more strike should do a lot of damage, and it will do a lot of damage. So for me, it's going to be A tier. That's prediction again. It could be very wrong again. At higher elo, where literally kiting is a thing, Arms Warrior is not that cruel to face. But again, I think mostly a lot of people are like below that high elo threshold where people are kiting you to death. Here you could really just have fun, especially like in RBGs, like in Soul PG. Battleground Blitz, you're going to have a good time like picking off targets pretty much. I want to talk about Windwalker. I saw a lot of buffs. Now I don't know how big they are for their class, but like Blackout Kick becomes very scary at this moment. It was already very scary because you had a lot of modifiers, but now it feels like every single button you're going to press actually does damage. Now they have an issue with Rising Sun Kick. It doesn't seem that scary compared to, let's say, Dragonflight, where literally you were like one-topping people with it. In the War Within, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like the damage has moved towards other portion of the kit, except Rising Sun Kick. So I'm going to put it in at A tier because I do believe it's going to be meta. I do believe it's good. I don't believe like it's going to be OP though. I might be wrong. But in general, from what I've seen on the patch note and what I've read, it didn't seem like a nerf. And I still regard Windwalker as one of the best melees in the game already right now. So I do believe like they become better. So I'm going to put it in the A tier to be safe. I could be wrong, I could be right, but I do believe that it's a good class. So why not? A good spec. So why not? Also high mobility. Shadow Priest is going to be very scary. I'm going to put in S tier. They got like a huge damage aura buff, which is always going to be messed up in general, like a 13% increased damage on everything. So everything you're going to do 13%. So if you are like doing 100k DPS, it's going to be 113k. So it's not like a aura buff like for a few spells, but like literally everything you're going to do is going to do more damage. So I look forward to see that. The only thing that is not really in their favor is their mobility, but outside of that, I do believe they have great CC, they have great off heals, they do survive damage, like they aren't sturdy, but they also deal some good damage. You don't need to cast, you do cast a lot. I'm not going to say that. They do cast a lot. You get interrupted, but the damage is not that reliant on you being able to cast. Like a Shadow Priest, like full freedom, never interrupted, is not going to do times 2 the damage of someone that is like getting trained. That's not happening. But a fire mage or a arcane mage, like literally free casting, or like a balance rate free casting, or elemental shaman free casting, or destruction warlock free casting, they are very scary. So they are like getting like targeted. But here, I do believe like Shadow Priest, they have everything to be very good. So I'm going to put it in S tier. Warlocks. So Destruction Warlock got a few buffs, a few nerfs. I don't know what to think about. I do believe that they do scale with a lot of stuff that is going to be interesting. So I can even show you guys, right? I go on to Wowhead. I'm going to show you guys the updated notes really quickly if I can. The full article. Can I do that? Please don't bug. So Warlock. Destruction Warlock got a few buffs, but it is not like incredible, right? For example, the duration has been increased for Havoc. You have here a new talent, Demon Fire Infusion. So periodic damage from Immolate gets you a chance of Demon Fire Bolt at 100% effectiveness. So I don't feel like they're doing too much to make it really crazy. You got also a buff on the PvP talent, the one where if you go out of the zone you get damaged. I think that people are not going to rate Destruction Warlock as high as the few mains are. So for me, I'm going to put in B tier because I do think they are like highly trainable, still very trainable. They need more oomph onto Incinerate. I feel like Incinerate is now like a shadow of their former self of Dragonflight. I think in Dragonflight they hit the nail perfectly on Incinerate. I do think like right now Incinerate is just not doing enough damage to be scary. You could be free casting Incinerate and people are not going to bat an eye, but if they see you do a Chaos Bot, they're going to turn onto you and like train you. I don't think it should be that way. I think Chaos Bolt should be very scary, but it should not be like times 3 the damage of an incinerate. So what are we going to do? We buff incinerate and then nerf a bit of Chaos Bolt or something, but like right now it's not the case. Affliction Warlock, I think it is going to be very scary. Their tier set is insane. Their buffs are also quite insane. Like they literally got a lot of buffs. Now these are not for like PvP combat, obviously, but you get like drain life buff, so maybe you can play a drain life build again. For example, this is also quite good. Soul Rot has been redesigned, which is going to be quite interesting as well. 7 Dark Glare, again a big buff, 40% increased damage, and also each overtime effect active is going to get increased damage, so 45 instead of 25, so it's a huge damage steroid. You also get like a haste buff now on your PvP talents, where if you're using a health stone, it doesn't heal you anymore, but gets you 20% haste, which is again a mini PI on yourself, which is like disgusting. Luckily, these are not affected by PvP, but I think just because it is not getting nerfed, because it actually scales well with the gear and has an insane tier set also for PvP, I do believe that they are like S tier right now. I could be wrong, but right now I do rate Affliction Warlock very high. Demonology Warlock, on the other hand, I don't know what to think about. They have issues where I wish some things should be a PvP talent. For example, the no cast time on like the called rest stalkers should always be a thing. Right now it's not the case anymore. As a PvP talent, you have Doom, very weird to use because it's now like it gets used on a consumption of a demonic core. You put a Doom on everyone, so it's not that fun to play. But I do believe it's still strong, so I'm going to put in A tier. They have a MS effect, they are very sturdy, they have damage that comes from nowhere. They didn't get changed from previous patch. I don't think that Demonology Warlock is a bad spec. I also think it's more safe to play Demonology Warlock compared to a Destruction Warlock, so that's why I'm going to rate it at A tier right now. Enhancement Shaman in PvP, in PvE it is S tier. I do rate them very high in PvP right now, so I'm going to put in A tier because they got a few changes that I really like. I discussed it multiple times, one on the PTR, one on the patch notes from today. I think the Storm build, which is the one I'm playing, is getting huge buffs compared to the Elementalist build, which gets huge nerfs. For example, Totemic, Sundering, like your Surging Totems are not doing as much damage anymore. Your Lava Lash gets nerfed on multiple facets of it. For example, the Hot Hands, the Molten Assault. All those things are like getting nerfed. So I don't think that Elementalist is going to be the play anymore. You also have like Primordial Wave with Primordial Storm, which is a new talent, new ability. It's going to be quite fun to play around. But I think it scales very well. The only thing that it's lacking is the defensives. If they could actually get a damage reduction on stuns, then it becomes like crazy. But for now, A tier, I think it's like a good tier for Enhancement Shaman. I rate Enhancement Shaman quite high. I also play it, so there is no bias to that. I think if I am very biased, I could put it lower so people could think Enhancement Shaman is bad, but it's actually a good, in a good state at least right now. Now, is it like two-handed Enhancement Shaman like fun? I wish it was, but it is not the case. But you cannot really talk about things that you are not going to get, and not like I cannot even expect to get it. So A tier. Elemental Shaman has not changed too much, except Primordial Wave is not launching lava bursts anymore whenever you're going to do a lava burst. So it's not an enabler, it's like purely just a spell that does damage. I kind of like how it plays. They get a few changes here and there. It's not like impressive changes. I think it still retains the gameplay. So what will change with this patch is mostly people going to play around mastery or haste, and that will be and have some test needs towards that. But in general, I do believe Elemental Shaman is still the damp master with like a thunder comp. So I do believe A tier is a good spot for them, and I look forward to how it will play tomorrow. Druid, I still think in PvE it is not that good. So I think I've heard a lot of people complain about it, but in PvP I'm going to put it in S tier. It feels like they are like one of the best winners of that patch because they got ignored on the nerfs. So is it a good thing? For me, I wish they could actually buff the Druid of the Claw and nerf Wall Stalkers. But that's not going to happen. I think they just want a Druid of the Claw to be too similar. With like being no hero tons. I think Ravage should be very much scary, but I don't think they're going to build into that. The changes that they got on the class tree are not very advantageous for Druid, for Feral Druid and for Balanced Druid, because like the fluid form is not something you're going to use too much. The shape shifting into humanoid, into boomkin or whatever, is not something you're going to look for. You could maybe, there's a world where you are going to take the moonkin form and you shapeshift to get the 6% mastery buff, to then shapeshift back to cat form to do a huge ferocious bite. Why not? And you could also snapshot with a feral druid. But the issue is, I don't think it's that viable. It's only 6% mastery. It is big. 6% mastery, 6% more damage. But I don't believe like it's worth to do as much as like let's say a restoration druid. So for now, I think S tier, even if the changes are not really affecting them, they are not changed into negatives. Like for example, I can show you guys because again, I think showing you guys does give you somewhat of a idea. Feral druids, they got an all ability damage increased by 8%, melee auto attack damage increased by 25%, adaptive swarm again increased by 25%, brutal slash 10%. Only buffs, bursting growth as well, 20% buff. Here you have a few like druid changes, obviously. Rip damage reduced by 9%, but you got like a new talent that gives you more damage towards your physical damage dealing, which is this one above, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere here. Here, Circle of the Wild, so 5% increase. So it's going to offset all of those nerfs. Shred damage increased by 10%, swipe 10%, ferocious bite reduced by 8%, but you also got a new talent with only 1 point, ferocious bite giving you 8%. So it is offsetting. The huge nerf that I see is Cyclone being now 5 seconds, but there are a few druids where they are like not really going for the cyclones. They just like do full bleeds on everyone and just run and survive. And they could do sometimes a cyclone here and there for the kill phase. So again, I think they're winners. They could be maybe A tier, but right now I do believe it's still S tier. Balanced Druid, I think they are one of the losers of the patch notes because there is nothing really for them. There is like one change, which is Power of Goldrun being 100% more damage. Like I said, and always said, I don't think they know what they want to do with Balanced Druid. One time Power of Goldrun is not doing any damage. Sometimes it does a lot of damage. It's always ever changing. Sometimes it does like 10% of Star Surge. Sometimes it does the same damage as Star Surge. I prefer it to be removed and to put the power into Star Surge, like in RNG kind of thing, or like it counts, like every 4 Star Surge you get like a 5th big Star Surge that is Power of the Gold Ring, for example. Why not? But I think right now it actually needs some kind of help. I do believe. So B tier. Let's talk about BM Hunter. S tier. They got like a huge buff on pack leader. They got a huge buff on all their like spec tree. I think personally it's a huge buff. They got nerfed on the like dots doing more damage for you. Like if the more dots you have, the more damage you have. That is gone. They removed it. But I do believe like they are one of the like winners from this patch. That's my prediction. I could be wrong, but I do believe like right now I can't see anything that is like remotely a nerf. For me, like if I go BM based on Wrath, Hunter, for example, here we are Hunter. You have a few class changes here and there, but it's like not like anything spectacular. Here you have a pack leader, a lot of changes, and that is like a huge buff. Like that tree is really good. You have also Dark Ranger, a lot of bug fixes that are actually very good for you as well. Beast Mastery got a few new talents that are like all great. For example, Kill Command also 10% more damage, all damage dealt reduced by 8% though. But you have like all of the things that are going to offset towards that. In general, I think they come out in a better position. You have literally like Thundering Hooves, where explosive shots is going to do like stomps at 200% effectiveness. You have Bishop Wrath being at 30% buff now instead of 25%. So I don't believe in the fact that people are going to see it worse than what we have right now. I think it's a huge buff regardless. A huge patch for them regardless. Survival Hunter, I think it's like interesting. So I'm going to put them at 8 here. They are worthy to main. So I think hunters in general are worthy to main because they are like putting efforts into it. Is it going to be meta? That's not the discussion. A lot of those classes are like a bit mixed, so I'm very sorry about that. Sometimes I'm like saying it's very worthy to main because of their spec and how they're going to be seen and how they're going to be buffed. And some specs I'm going to say they are like straight broken and they will need to nerf. For example, Fury Warrior, they need like some kind of nerf. Same for BM Hunter. But the potential for Survival Hunter is they are most likely going to be buffed. They are most likely going to be good. So that's why I'm going to put them at 8 here because I think it's also very worthy to main. MM Hunter, it is the rework of the season pretty much. Yeah, that's going to be difficult to rate. I will put them at B tier because I still think their damage is lackluster. The spec rework is good. The idea is good. I think the damage is in a weird like space. I think aim shot still tickles too much. It should be actually dealing more damage. And just for that, I'm going to put them at B tier because I feel like it's a rapid fire machine. It is like a kill shot or like a black arrow machine, but not really a aim shot machine. Like if you're like fully like nobody's on you and you're spamming aim shots, you're not doing that much damage. The damage really comes from rapid fire, from your kill shots, black arrows, anything beyond it, like for example, explosive shot. But aim shot for some reason doesn't do too much damage. So I don't know what they're doing with it. I think it's like filled with modifiers, which you should maybe take it away and put that already baseline towards the aim shot. So you could always like cast an aim shot and feel good about it. Their damage, like on PTR, it was not really good. So I don't know. I think it's worthy to main because they will like put effort into fixing it, but I don't think it's like that drastic to main right now. So for me, B tier. Let's talk about the DK. I think Frost DK is going to be very interesting to main. I'm going to put him 8 here based on the PvP talent. I think it's like one of the most fun PvP talents to play. It's like huge AoE damage. They do nerf Frost DK because you are not able to AoE stun. Me putting it 8 here is not making them like meta. It's more like I think it's worthy to main based on that fun. Unholy, like they're going to be good in RPGs. They're going to be good in 3v3 in specific comps. I think you should maybe rely a bit less on the setup game because of the PvP talent being that strong. Your Moses Winter is going to do insane amount of AoE damage and pressure. So I wonder if like they changed the playstyle of Frost DK because of that. It could make them more of a brawler instead of like really a setup machine, which is maybe something I would prefer myself. Some people prefer the setup style. I personally prefer not. So that's it. Unholy DK, I'm going to put them at 8 here as well. I think it's worthy to main. You have a lot of changes towards Unholy DK that you would think, maybe a pet build could be like a thing. I'm going to show you as well here. I put Unholy DK. Unholy DK here has a lot of changes, like a lot of buffs as well. Gargoyle Strike, Apocalypse School, Magus of the Dead, those are all like pet things. Soul Reaper, which is again like execute, which is never going to be like that good until they fix the numbers. But like all of the things are good except the nerfs towards the survivability, which is also for Frosty K. They got a bullet into the knee pretty much, and I don't know how it's going to be for them. But yeah, they say the survivability is a bit too high in PvE, but in PvP it's like the contrary. Whatever. Command of the Dead also increased. So you have a lot of stuff that are screaming to me, play pet build. Now, is it because the scaling is bad and they try to scale it back to the normal like pet damage? That could be the case. But if it's beyond the scaling, it could be maybe interesting to play around it. Like again with Gargoyle, again with Commander of the Dead, and play around your pets. That could be maybe interesting. So A tier. Demon Hunter, I think I'm going to, for now, put in A tier. They got a few changes, and what I like is Demon Surge doing a lot of damage. They changed a lot of the class tree, a lot of the spec tree talents. You remember the busted tier set from Dragonflight, where whenever you're going to do a death sweep, it sends glaives onto the enemy. They got it back. Like, it's called a new talent, which is I'm going to put it for you guys, which is Screaming Brutality, which is literally like this is the talent, right? Blade Dance automatically triggers, which is also like sweeping, like Death Sweep. Automatically triggers Throw Glaive on your primary target for 100% of damage, and each slash has a 50% chance to throw glaive on enemy for 35%. So it's even more damage than in PvP from in Dragonflight because it was nerfed, because it was a tier set. This is not a tier set, so it's not going to be automatically nerfed. This is a lot of damage. Like, this was the reason why it was busted in Season 3, by the way. In Season 3 Dragonflight. So this is going to be interesting to play around. They have a lot of changes here and there. They removed any means necessary, so that's going to be interesting to play around as well and see if it's really a buff or not. But you have a few things that are going to be interesting for Havoc Demon Hunter. For example, Demon Surge doing 65% increased damage, which is, like, again, very welcome for Havoc Demon Hunter, which for some reason they nerfed it for Vengeance Demon Hunter instead of Havoc. For Havoc, it's going to be quite interesting. I think I said Vengeance where I meant Havoc Demon Hunter. My bad. But Havoc Demon Hunter comes better out of Season 1 to Season 2. So that's a good thing. Devastation Invoker, I'm going to put them at... I think I'm going to put them at A tier for now. I do believe like they still have a lot of potential. Is it going to be... I don't know, man. I think the issue is with Devastation that they buffed a lot of stuff, but also nerfed it. For example, Internet Search buff for 20%, but also nerfed it 20% in PvP. They could also wrote that it was not meant for PvP, but yeah, like hard can also be something they can do. They buffed a lot of the AoE stuff, for example, Firestorm. You have like an interesting talent which is Scorching Embers, but it was never taken in PvP. But now, maybe with the nerf to Scintillation, maybe you will see a lot more people playing around Scorching Embers to get more damage from your Fire Breath and your fire spells. And then obviously you have also all spell and ability damage increased by 10%, which is quite big as well. So yeah, I look forward to see Devastation Invoker, if they are going to play Flame Shaper or not, because they also changed it, but I don't think it's going to be that drastic. I think Scale Commander is still going to be the way to go for Devastation. Retribution Paladin, I do believe they are nerfed, so I'm going to put B tier. I don't know if I'm really right, but I don't think it's that worth to main. Currently, they buffed Paladins, but also to nerf them in a few occasions. If I do Retribution Paladin, you will see. So you have all of like those bug fixes, but in general, it feels like they are nerfed overall, right? Internal cooldown reduced to 0.1 seconds. tuning difficulties, revamps, casting delays. Like all these things are like very much bug fixes, and I can't believe like they didn't think about like buffs towards Retribution Paladin. I think they do need a buff on Final Verdict because it tickles. I wish it actually did something, but it is just not the case. So, P tier. Subtlety, I think it is going to be C tier. They lost Shadowy Duel. They will need a lot of help to make it maybe viable. Subtlety, I don't know. Increase damage by 10%, cool. I think Trickster also doing more damage on Nimble Flurry, like AoE wise, why not? But they lost like a huge thing, which is the Shadowy Duel, which is one of the ways where you can end matches. That is gone. So I don't know what the compensation is for Salty Rogue. Yeah, I don't believe like they are like in the right spot. So yeah, I wonder what they're going to do with Salty. I feel like they're not complete. Those are not complete updates. I felt like they nerfed a few things on Subtlety on the tree. For example, the blades and how it works. But somebody can tell me in the comment section below. But I've read that it was like an overall nerf. But I don't think like it's very complete. Like I do see a lot of the changes for enhancement, but like Subtlety, it feels like it was not like only 2 changes, or maybe it was the previous patch. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll have to see. Assassination Rogue. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's a meta PvP spec, and Outlaw Rogue. I think it's going to be also A tier. Those two are like the meta specs. I think Subtlety is the one that is really just a hipster spec right now. People are going to play it, are like diehards, which is fine. They can do that, and they will perform as well. But I don't think like someone that is new to Subtlety will have a lot of good time playing Subtlety. I don't think that's the case. Arcane Mage. I'm going to put them at B tier. I don't think it's that impressive. They did a few buffs here and there. But I don't like think they are impressive. They did like change a few PvP talents. That's great. Why not? But it's not going to be like for example Arcane Familiar. I don't know if it's like going to do anything. Temporal Shield is a huge nerf as well. Like PvP talent being gone. You have a redesign on the Ring of Fire, which is disorienting now the enemies whenever they're going to enter, and burns the health from them 3%, which is not big. It's a AoE. It's now a ACC. So if you have Ring of Frost, it overrides it and becomes Ring of Fire, which is quite big. So it's another CC option. You have also a few PvP talents here, for example, Overpowered Barrier. Why not? Could be interesting. If the barrier is fully absorbed for Arcane, your next blink or shimmer within 15 seconds grants invisibility and immunity to damage for 3 seconds. Why not? Could be fun to play around. It could also be just not that good. So I wonder what it's going to be. Yeah, I think that's good. Arcane Mage. Now Fire Mage, I think... Oh, excuse me. I have to show you also the few changes that they did Arcane Mage wise. You have a buff towards Arcane Barrage. You have also a buff towards Arcane Explosion. But they also nerfed a few things towards the modifiers. So it is evening out. It's not going to be incredibly strong. I think it's going to be better, but it's not going to be like... Yeah, like game changing. So I wonder if I'm wrong. I could be wrong on it, but I don't think Arcane Mage is going to be that impressive. But I'm going to put in B tier because it's a specialist class spec. The people are going to play it. They're going to be very good at it. The people are not playing on it because they are playing Frost Mage. I think Frost Mage is going to be A tier, and Fire Mage is going to be B tier. Fire Mage, they're still squishy. From my understanding, PvE wise, they're good. So I don't know. I think they lack something. They lack Pyroblast doing damage. It feels like Pyroblast still does like no damage, and I thought it was meant to be good. I thought it was like meant to be like in Cataclysm, where whenever you're going to do a power blast, it actually hurts the enemy. This doesn't hurt. So now it's about your scorches, your fireballs, your frost fireballs, excuse me, your overall damage with your ignite. But feels like power blast is now on the back burner. Until they do, I think it's still going to be hovering B tier. It's either you're playing with a rogue and you win like in a stun lock, but that you could do also as well with a frost mage. A frost mage, on the other hand, I do believe they are like still the ultimate spec for PvP. Since the damage increased by 20%, which is huge. You have Wintertide now, so it grants more damage on the Glacial Spike, stacking up to 2 times. It no longer consumes Wintertide. You have Blizzard doing more damage, whatever, more radius, whatever, duration, whatever. But in general, I do believe they come out in a better way than other classes, and they still retain their identity, which is the most annoying class to face for a melee. So that's pretty much the tier list. So I did the healer tier list, I did the tank tier list, I did the DPS tier list. You could be seeing that as like a best specs to main, or you could also say like, look, what's the best to main for the future, and to like a prediction of like classes being buffed or nerfed. In general, I did explain every single placement. It could be like confusing for people that do skip through the video. I would recommend you guys to just watch the whole video so you could understand my reasoning. Again, it's a prediction, so I'm not really like 100% sure about the truthness towards it once we are going to play it in 11.1. All of the PTR stuff is just PTR stuff, so I cannot really test it in 2v2, 3v3, Soul Shuffle, or in BGB because nothing pops. Unfortunately, Blizzard didn't really do a play with the devs this time around for some reason. I wish they did, but right now we are stuck with these classes and specs with their patch notes, and I wonder if it's going to be a good thing. I wonder if it's going to be a positive thing. But in general, I'm excited. I think most classes are like changed positively, and the ones that are nerfed with a reason. I do believe this week will be the nerf week. A lot of the classes are going to be nerfed or adjusted for the race for the world first, but also for the PvP season starting. I think they also are going to announce the AWC season, so that's going to be also something to look forward to. And yeah, so again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.